Hello and welcome to today's video, which is top 10 things you're doing wrong as Survivor. But you may ask, how can you tell me what I'm doing wrong as Survivor? Well, I've been playing DBD for too long. I started playing when Hag came out. I've currently got nearly 4K hours and the majority of them have been spent on Survivor or in the lobby. So I know roughly what I'm doing. I've learned quite a lot from it, and I know about my own mistakes and my own mess ups. Keep in mind, this video is literally just about winning. So these tips are just what you're doing wrong that can stop you from escaping. A lot of these things in this list I do myself because they're fun, or because I sometimes make mistakes. But this is just about winning, not about having fun, because you're not allowed to have fun in Dead by Daylight. So let's get into it. Number 10, trying to 360. Lots of people want to learn how to 360. However, like 90% of the time, it's not going to work, especially in the higher up ranks. It might work against newer killers, people who haven't played that much, but it's super easy to counter. And once they realize how easy it is to counter, it's not going to work anymore. I mainly use 360ing as like a last ditch attempt. Like if I'm injured and I'm about to get down, I will give it a go and try a 360 just as a, it's either I'm going to go down or I can try this. So if you're not injured, like I wouldn't bother doing it, like unless like there's no pallets or windows in sight, because a lot of the time it's not going to work and you're going to waste that speed boost that you get when you get hit. Because when you get an M1 hit, you get a little speed boost going forward. If you try and 360 and then you get hit, you're going to completely waste that speed boost, and sometimes you disorient yourself and you end up fucking it up even more. So 360ing, not a good idea, only use as a last ditch attempt. Number 9, being fancy. Now, by being fancy, I mean trying to use certain techs like the CJ tech, the dumb tech, and my favorite, the shack tech. Most of the times these won't work, and again, it's similar to like 360ing, whereas like it should be a last ditch attempt. For example, at shack, if you're not gonna make that window and you know you're not gonna make that window, you can try doing the shack tech because you're gonna get downed either way. But if you can make the window, why bother trying to do a shack tech when a window's like a surefire way to get away, whereas doing the shack tech isn't. All the killer has to do is have a little glance to their left, which sometimes they don't, to be fair, and it is hilarious when it works, but we're just talking about pure winning here. So stop trying to be so fancy. You're not impressing anyone. I don't care how much you want that sick juke montage on YouTube. Stop it. Number 8, taking loops too wide. Looping is pretty much the main part of being chased in DBD. However, I see a lot of survivors and killers just take the loops too wide. The closer you can get to the objects, the more loops you're gonna get. But just be careful you don't get stuck. I feel like it's something that you just learn over time. But when you first try to like loop super close to objects, you might get stuck on stuff. There's sometimes little things sticking out that you don't quite see until it's too late. So just loop as close as possible as you can to the objects. Same as killer, like this works for killer as well. Loop as close to the objects as you can, because if you're looping very tightly and the killer isn't, you might be able to get an extra loop out of it. Number 7, wasting pallets. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Don't waste pallets. Pallets are pretty much your only hope of extending chases. You want to keep as many up as possible. Some maps don't have many. Then you have maps like the game that have about 500 on them. You don't want to use all the pallets up at the beginning of the game, and then you're left with none at the end of the game, because that's kind of the pivotal moment. This is where your looping comes into play, the tight looping around the object so you can get as much use out of a pallet as possible. Don't just drop the pallet as soon as the killer's behind you. Also, don't drop the pallet if you're going to get hit. Like, even I do this sometimes, usually when I don't think I am going to get hit. But I know you want your stun points, I get it. But like, don't drop the pallet if you're just getting hit. 1, you waste that speed boost that you get. 2, that's a complete waste of the pallet. Also, be very careful about which pallets you're using. Sometimes it is worth getting hit over dropping the god pallet when not even any gens have been done. So be very careful about which pallets you're using. Like the shack pallet, you want to keep that up for as long as possible. The ones near the bathroom at the game, those kinds of ones, be very careful when using them. Sometimes it's worth just getting hit or going down rather than using the god pallet. Number 6, being too altruistic. In the nicest way possible, sometimes you gotta let a bitch die. It's not worth risking the killer getting a 4K because you want to save one person. This is why perks like no ed work so well when they shouldn't, because it's end game, one person's on the hook, all 3 of you could leave, but for some reason you just wanna go and get that person, and then you're all dead. Like, me personally, I would rather that I died on hook and everyone else escaped than they tried to come back for me and ended up with everyone dead. Keep in mind, when a survivor gets hooked, you don't need to immediately rush in to save that survivor. Survivors get 2 minutes on the hook. 1 minute before they go into struggle. You've got time. You can finish that gen. You can carry on. Like, you're okay. You don't have to immediately rush in and save them, as long as you get them before they go to struggle or before they die. And also, just because you have borrowed time doesn't make it okay to farm people, all right? Number 5, playing Meg. No one likes Meg. Don't play Meg. Number 4, being greedy. This is probably the one I'm the worst with. Getting greedy at pallets and trying to squeeze in another loop is not worth getting down. As I said earlier about not wasting pallets, you need to figure out, you will learn this over time, but you need to figure out how many loops you can get out of certain pallets before it's too late. Don't be too greedy and think, oh, I can get another loop out of this, because that's how you end up dying. It also applies to unhooking survivors. You might be on your way to unhook a survivor, but then you get caught by the killer, but you're like, I want that sweet, sweet we're gonna live forever stat. So you still unhook the survivor, they get downed, then you get down, and then it just snowballs, and before you know it, you're all slugged on the ground. And yet again, borrowed time doesn't make that okay. So stop being greedy, learn what you can get out of stuff, and sometimes you gotta let your points go to get more points by escaping. Number 3, not planning ahead. Planning ahead is detrimental to your survival. When you're sat there and you're repairing a gen, just take a quick look around and think, right, if the killer runs over, where am I going? Are you in the middle of nowhere and there's not a single pallet or a window near you? Those kind of gens you want to get done first, so they're not left like a free gen at the end and all the gens are in shit areas. But you kind of just want to plan out where you're going to go, right? If the killer comes from this direction, there's a pallet over there I can run to. If the killer comes from this direction, there's a window over there that I can run over to. It also applies when you're healing. Do not run to the corner of the map and heal yourself there. Because if the killer comes over, what are you going to do? You've got nowhere to run, you're down. Make sure you heal yourself near a pallet, near a window, something that if the killer runs over to you, you've got an escape plan. You also want to plan out what gens you're going to do. Nobody wants to free gen themselves. Free genning is a huge pain in the ass, especially if you've got like a doctor or a nurse or a billy or something like that. So make sure you're planning out that you're doing gens on both sides of the map. You're not leaving free close together. And as I said earlier, make sure that you are getting the more awkward gens done first. So the ones that are in awkward places, like the ones in the bathroom, in the game map, and then you can leave ones like the shack gen till later in the game, because that's a good gen to have at the end, because the shack's a pretty good area to loop. Number 2, being a knobhead. Don't be a knobhead. Clicking your flashlight at the killer, teabagging them at every opportunity, just being a little shit is gonna get yourself tunneled, face camped, and smacks on the hook. Like, I get it. I get it. It's funny. I do it myself, but here we're just talking about winning. We're talking about winning. If you don't want to get tunneled, like, I mean, killers sometimes are going to tunnel no matter what. It's just how it is. But to reduce your chances of it, just play like a normal person, you know? Just play like normal. Stop being toxic and clicking at them and making them try and chase you. Like, I get it. I get it. But, like, this, the more courteous you play, the more chances you are that the killer's gonna, like, you know, not bother tunneling you. Or sometimes they'll just tunnel you anyway. But hey, what are you gonna do? Hey, what are you gonna do? Number one, the most annoying thing, especially in solo, wasting time. I see this the most in Solo Survivor, and it is so frustrating. Literally every second counts when you're playing. Don't waste time sitting in the corner of the map, braiding your ass hair. Like, next time you play Survivor, bring Bond, and you will see how much time survivors spend just doing nothing. You should always be on a gen, getting chased, cleansing your totem, going for an unhook. This is why perks like self-care are so hated, because they waste so much time. It takes 30 seconds to heal yourself without a med kit, or things like botany, and 80 seconds to do a gen. You've done 40% of that jump before you've been self-caring, you know? DvD is pretty much about time management. So the time that you're sat there not contributing and not doing anything means the killer is putting pressure on without having to do anything. Just make sure that no matter what, you are always doing something that is contributing to the game, and that is contributing to you and the other survivors being able to escape. I hope you enjoyed this video. Just remember that these tips are about winning. Like a lot of these things in this list I do myself because they're fun, and like I'm strictly just talking about if you want to escape and you want to win in the game. But some of these are just fun to do, so do them anyway. Plus, also remember that everyone makes mistakes. Like, you know, we can do that. Just don't play Meg, and you should be all right. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's any mistakes that you see survivors doing all the time. And if you did enjoy it, like, comment, and subscribe, and have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.
My father told me when I was young, don't play with fire, be careful, son. But we were flames and fell in